Mr. Kalungu, let's begin our conversation firstly on the possibilities of something like this. How possible is it that a person holding such a position would have this much property?
To begin with, we need to be clear that um, as of now, everything will be treated as suspected. Of course, as the courts would demand us when somebody is found or wanting or in possession of something or is suspected of something, we regard that as being suspected of something so that people don't say we are already making judgments on people. But this revelation also can make us learn a lot of things and tell us a lot of things. One, if indeed Madam Katanga towards the end, at the end of the process, can be found with guilty of what she's been charged with at the moment. For us, one, it's extremely sad, but also it tells us that sometimes the system can try to hide a lot of things. And we need always to remember that even when we are politicking, it's not that we have eyes on what is happening within the government or within the whole system. If indeed this is proven to be true, you might find that maybe the higher ranking officials might not even have known about it. Yet it was happening at some lower levels. And that's why we would urge politicians not always to go running to sweeping statement like there's no corruption in my government, there is no corruption in my ministry, but would rather make them understand that there are certain things that can happen that they might not know. They just open themselves to saying we are human beings and we are happy that law enforcement agencies can look at us through this. But also, for one, indeed, to have accumulated that much, if indeed she has that much, you would know that it was not done overnight. It could have been a process. It could have been a system. So had the system itself rendered itself to being transparent, to being open, they could have stopped such kind of things. That's why we keep emphasizing that allow the law enforcement agencies free access to work without being impeded through political means and ways. So for us, it's quite sad, and especially linking a high-ranking official like that to this, just mere suspicion, even before it's proven, it doesn't show a good picture to the police service. And it makes us also learn that even in this political service, in this police service, there could be something that is happening. And we could also say, now, what can we do to stop such things happening in the future? So it renders a lot of work for the police service, but also overall over the government to do something.
Right. Mr. Kalungu, you've spoken of the fact that obviously these serious allegations that the former Deputy IG is facing has somewhat dented the service's image. But I'd love to note from you what your perspective is in as far as the general public. How should we then view men and women that are that are said to serve us diligently, especially when we have such a person being called into question? Because, I mean, after all, again, this is someone that should have been upholding the law in all its tenets, really.
So, indeed, that's a very important question, my dear. If you have seen even the research that we carry out yearly as Transparency International Zambia, the Bride Payers Index, which shows the perception of the people about the corruption in government. We have seen consistently that the police service has come out as one which is viewed by the Zambians as one which is extremely corrupt. And when we see things happening like this, serious allegations happening like this actually goes to confirm what the people of Zambia perceive. Remember, corruption is not only the actual corruption, but also with regard within the perceived one. Because then if you are perceiving a system or a ministry or a quasi-government to be corrupt, then you go with that perception, and even the services that you get can be hampered or hindered by that. But coming back to the question, yeah, so the police service has been dented, not only now, but this is just pushing further the dent to the police service. But also, for us, it's not only the police service, it's also the other systems that should be seen to be transparent. For instance, we've been talking about parliament. We've been talking about ministers being open in terms of simple things like declaration of their assets, liabilities, and incomes. And some took as long as 9 months. And then we are seeing them as breaking the law, the people who make the law. Once they start giving those perceptions, they start weakening the legal system within the government, within Zambia, saying some people, even when they make law, they can break it and nothing happens. The police can break it and nothing happens. The members of parliament can break it and nothing happens. So in this sense, it shows that we need really to see how we can enforce laws, even among those that are making and enforcing the laws, like the police. So there is a lot of work that the police service needs to do in order to cleanse itself of all this that is happening. So they have a serious work, but it's unfortunate if we get such high officers doing this work, and where we need to run when we have problems such as corruption. Then you start wondering, where else do we need to go? Remember, there are a number of anti-corruption commission officers who were also suspected of having been involved in corrupt acts. Then you start wondering, what else? Who is remaining? If ministers are heavily involved, even if presidents can be highly involved in this, then you know that the problem of corruption is endemic in our nation. And when we use such terms, it's not that we lose hope completely, but it's where we start asking ourselves serious questions. How else can we behave? What else can we do in order to change this system? One way of changing the system is to let the people get involved. Have a Whistleblowers Act which protects the people but also brings in information, so that everyone everywhere in Zambia can be part of bringing information to the law enforcement agencies in order to curb such things happening. And this kind of corruption, like we are seeing the allegations, they could have gone, not one person can really move 2 million or 1 million, just like we had at the Ministry of Health. No one person can move 100 million within government. There should be a system that did that. But if citizens were involved and they were proactive, they could have provided information much earlier to stop such acts from happening.
But then what would you say could be a long-term plan or resolution to have this immediately halted, or at least brought to a minimal level, to ensure that we're not getting to see these things happening, especially amongst government officials, especially amongst civil servants? Where exactly do you think the problem needs to be handled, and what resolutions can be created, long-term resolutions? Because
I like the word minimum.
You have a situation where, for example, yourself, Transparency International Zambia, you work alongside the Zambia police to sort of create a resolution to stop some of these issues around bribes and things like that. But in the long run, you get to hear that a police officer was involved in a bribe that involved huge amounts of money. Where do you think we need to start from, and how can we sort of create a long-term resolution for this?
I want really to commend how the president started with the fight against corruption, where he came in and he said he wants he had zero tolerance to corruption. And he pledged that we are going to fight corruption, whatever kind or whenever it happened. I think that was a good beginning. That was a good start. We need somebody who is the shepherd of the flock to really lead on that, but not only through words, but also through actions. We have seen the president already leading the way and giving the law enforcement agencies will to act well on many cases. I think that's the way it should be. The president should go further to even make sure that even the other senior officers in the ministry are not seen to be protected by him when they commit such atrocities, where they break the law. And he sends a good message and provides resources and finances to the law enforcement agencies to do their work. And for me, then that's where it begins. Then it means even the lower agencies are going to go in tandem with what the president is saying. But having said that, at another level, like at our organization level, or after our results of the Bright Pairs Index, for instance, come out, and we see that institutions like the police service really topping the list of perceived corrupt institutions, we actually engaged them, and even as late as last month, we were working with them on building integrity among senior officers, on how we can create, together with the Anti-Corruption Commission, integrity committees that can even try to watch and even manage some of these corrupt acts within themselves. So we keep working with them. But also the other thing, as Transparency International with Zambia, we do, when we see institutions like passport office, registration office, we go to them and ask them how they do, with the process of providing such services and the costs. And we work with them to make them transparent so that everyone who goes, for instance, to get a passport can read what is required, how much is supposed to be paid, how long it's supposed to take, and so on, so that no one is made to or duped to be thinking that it's longer than what is supposed to be. You have to pay more than what you are supposed to be. So there are other actions that we take in order to bring about corrective measures. But also we are working with the courts of Zambia, where we need also to publish what the law says, and officers how they need to treat such cases. But this is only one organization, but there are other organizations that are doing also some work around this. But the bottom line is this: if the laws are strengthened to the level that they facilitate easy prosecution of those who are committing these crimes, then it will be much easier. But also, like we are saying, the law can change where it doesn't exempt certain people from prosecuted because when they commit certain things. One simple example is, for instance, they are civil servants, but also there are constitutional holders, and there are also stakeholders where they are left out in the Anti-Corruption Commission Act. Even when they committed such crimes, they cannot be tried under the Act, the Anti-Corruption Commission Act. And these were fundamentally and created and deliberately misplaced or misnamed, so that certain individuals, when you are in higher-ranking government offices, you can be left out in case you committed that. So such things, when they are left out, they are dealt with, which can help us to change things. So it's a multiple things that can be done. First of all, reforming the law, political will from the higher offices, involvement of civil servants, involvement of citizens, but also financially, economically, and politically supporting the law enforcement agencies to curb the corruption that are happening. But also allowing the system even to punish those even when they're in government in case they err. Then we'll be sending a different message to whoever would want to attempt to commit any crime against the Corruption Act, Anti-Corruption Commission Act.
Right. Still speaking on the lines of transparency, let's speak of the establishment and really the management of political parties fund, especially the financing of political parties. How well do you think creating a body to manage political parties who work in having to foster accountability as well as transparency, especially as regards funding?
I'm happy, and we are always, as Transparency International Zambia, passionate about speaking about how we can manage political party financing, as well as political campaign financing. We've been speaking about this even from the time of the late presidents Chiluba and even Mwanawasa, and we have been spearheading this. We feel letting the political parties find their own resources without limitations, without guidance, without transparency. This can lead to a lot of problems, and we have seen some of the problems that are coming through. We have been always advocating that there should be the way we manage political party financing, where we know where the political parties are getting the monies and how much they are getting, and even putting a cap to how much a political party, for instance, can raise, either for themselves, just for other activities, but as well for the campaign. But also would also mean political parties then can be made to pay correct taxes and also make correct returns. But unfortunately, we have seen that political parties have been very united to be against such kind of things, controls. But we are not saying this does not work. There are a number of countries that we know, including the US, where these controls are there and it can work. For us, if we bring this in, where we manage political party financing, it would mean then there will be a creation of a provision in Zambia where the government then funds part of the political activities. They can be outlined, streamlined, which can be funded. And in that way, we'll find that there won't be a political party which will have too much money and the other one will have less money, because it can be equalized in that sense.